What's up, guys? Coach Seth here. I have a video for you this morning that I'm not actually sure how I want to title it, so I'm not going to actually give it a title, but I'm going to tell you what it's about. We're talking about thinking again. And we're going to talk about how some of the issues that we're seeing coming up with humanity right now, as far as mental illness goes, and even a lot of the chronic illness that we're seeing now, autoimmune diseases that we're seeing right now, why are we struggling with them so much? And I'm going to throw in there, guys, I have a 3-month program right now to help people get some clarity on overeating. Why is it that we overeat? And why is it that when we think, okay, my overeating is an issue for me and I would like to stop, but then we can't stop? And guys, the reason I'm bringing this up right now is because this ties into what we're going to talk about today. Excuse the hair. I actually just got out of the shower. I'm getting ready for work right now. But side note, here's what I want to talk to you all about today. And why it is that this is such a struggle for us when we're talking about overeating, when we're talking about diabetes, when we're talking about cancer, when we're talking about mental illness. All of these have a component to them that is within our control. Now, that is not me saying that I don't think that there is a genetic component to cancer. That is not me saying that there is not a genetic component that causes people to be predisposed to developing cancer or diabetes or overeating disorders. That is not what I'm debating here. I do believe that there is a genetic trait or genetic traits that can cause people to be more susceptible to cancer, more susceptible to diabetes, more susceptible to mental illness, more susceptible to any number of things. But as we talked about in the video that I made previously about Human Evolution 2.0, science is starting to find out now that there is more to it that is actually within our control. And what I mean by that is that, yes, there is a genetic component to diabetes. There is a genetic component to cancer, to a lot of the chronic illness that we're seeing becoming so prevalent in the world today. But what we're also finding alongside of that is that there is a huge part of it where our lifestyle, our mindset, the way we take care of ourselves plays a huge role in whether or not these genetics will actually develop into a disease. So, guys, here's the conundrum that we are in right now with modern day illness. So in the past with illness, our history with dealing with illness started off very primitive. When someone was sick, we worried about them and, people prayed over them and chanted over them and tried to resist what was inside of them that was killing them, hoping they could just get it to go away. This didn't really work most of the time, and often when it did, it was just because it was a very minor illness and the person's body was able to recover from it. But the people thought that the chanting did it, that the praying did it, that the rituals did it, that all of these different things. And then when people started discovering that certain diseases could actually be spread from person to person, then it was like we started isolating people when they were sick. So when something is sick or when someone is sick, you just get them away from everybody else. Don't let them be around anyone else. They'll die, and then the disease goes away. And this worked for a little while, but then some diseases we actually found out were being transmitted through things like rats or through things like water sources or through unhealthy other food sources. So many different things. So just getting rid of the people that were sick wasn't going to get rid of the disease anymore. With leprosy, we could isolate people. With the plague, it was rats that was spreading it. So then it was like, okay, well, we have to get rid of the rats. Well, you can't get rid of all rats. So it wasn't until doctors started being able to study human cadavers that they started discovering that some of these diseases that people were dying from were coming from things like a bacteria or a virus that they were starting once they were able to get microscopes. And guys, and then what ended up happening is science started investigating. Science started becoming curious. Science started diving into these diseases, these viruses, these bacteria, these parasites, and looking into them. How do they live? How do they reproduce? How do they thrive? What causes them to thrive and reproduce? What causes them to spread from host to host to host? And it wasn't until science was able to do this that we were fully able to start treating these diseases in a method that actually worked, like antibiotics, like antiviral techniques. Even with with studying cancer, they developed chemotherapy, a way to stop the production of cancer cells. But guys, the key was that it took scientists taking the time to understand the disease first before any sort of treatment could come out. And guys, what they're finding now with things like cancer, with diabetes, with a lot of chronic illness and autoimmune disease is, yeah, we can fight the symptoms once we start understanding the disease a little bit more. We're at that point where we can fight the symptoms, but what we're starting to understand is that there's an underlying component that a medicine can't touch. Because the underlying component deals with lifestyle, which deals with mindset. Which means that we have to start looking at the way that we're thinking, the way that we're handling stress, the way that we're living our lives and choosing to live our lives. And this all boils down to our thinking and our beliefs. And so now there's this whole community coming out that's talking about, okay, we need to start focusing on mindset. And this is great because we're getting to the very deep underlying cause of overeating, which ends up causing all of these other diseases like obesity, diabetes, all of these other metabolic disorders, and even cancer. They're starting to discover has a lifestyle component to it, dealing with overconsumption. Overconsumption of alcohol, overconsumption of nicotine, overconsumption of food, overconsumption of caffeine, overconsumption of sunlight, overconsumption of pollution, and any number of things that we're discovering now lead to cancer. So we know that there are lifestyle choices that we can have or adopt to resist getting cancer, even if we have the genetic component. But guys, we're still struggling. And we sit around and we wonder why. Why is it that we're so close, we're right there, we can see the mindset having a lot to do with this. But why is it that we struggle so hard? When we can see the underlying causes, why can't we come up with a solution? Here's where it comes in, guys. The difference between the past in treating diseases and the issues that we're seeing now is this. Before, it was something outside of us that was creating the problem. It was food. It was that we didn't have enough of a vitamin. We didn't have enough of a mineral. We needed antibiotics. We needed antiviral. We needed chemotherapy. Something outside of us that caused the issue, and then something outside of us could fix the issue. Now we're seeing that there's something inside of us that can cause the issue, and that therefore the only way to solve for the problem is to also look inside. But the difference being that before scientists could look into it, scientists could get under a microscope, scientists could go to school and learn all of these different tools of how they could discover how viruses procreated, how viruses, thrived in the human body, how they reproduced, how we could stop them. Scientists started studying cancer and how cancer cells proliferate, how cancer cells can be stopped. But now, guys, we're at a point where we're looking at mindset being a huge underlying factor here. And the problem is that a scientist can't look into that for you. They can't. They can look at the human brain, sure. They can, we can look at all of the different neurotransmitters, the way that the brain sits and the way it's shaped, how it functions, all of this. But guys, what we're learning is that it's the thinking. It's the thinking. It's the mindset itself. And that is so individual from person to person to person. Guys, I can tell you with dealing with my own eating issues, with my own body image issues, and then working with clients with their eating issues and their body image issues, the underlying beliefs and thinking patterns can be so drastically different that an external solution no longer works. A scientist can't look into it for you. The reason we had success with developing cures in the past for cancer, for viral infections, for bacterial infections, was because someone else could look into the disease for us into such great detail. And they were unafraid to dive in and learn as much as they could about the disease. The issue that we're running into now, guys, is that to deal with mindset, you have to be the one willing to dive in. And to be the one willing to dive in, you have to be open to not rejecting, to resisting your own mindset, because you have to understand it first. But guys, in order to understand your mindset, you need tools. Just like these doctors, these scientists went to medical school to learn how to look at human bodies, to look at diseases, to learn about them, to research them, to find cures. Guys, we are at a time now where we have individual responsibility to heal ourselves. We have to be willing to look into our own viruses, our own bacteria, quote unquote, which is our thinking. We have to be willing to dive into those thoughts instead of isolating them and hoping that they just go away. We have to open them up to the rest of our thinking and examine them. Where do these thoughts come from? What beliefs are underneath them? How do they replicate themselves? How do they attach themselves to other beliefs and thoughts that I'm having and replicate themselves into them? Guys, you have to be willing to not be afraid of them and jump in and look. And you have to be willing to learn the tools necessary to do so. And guys, this is what I've been saying since day one when I started life coaching. It's why you need a coach. It's why you need a coach. If there's something in your life that you are struggling with, if there's a resistance, if there's something that's holding you back and you can't figure out what it is and you're scared to look at it, I promise you there's a coach for that. What do I specialize in? I specialize in helping people get their health back, understand how their own beliefs and thoughts are creating so much dysfunction in their eating and their lifestyle habits, and why it is that they can't create the healthy life that they see themselves living in and that they want, but they see themselves self-sabotaging. And guys, I promise you every time, we make no movement on this until the person is willing to stop judging and resisting their thinking, and they're willing to jump into it and look at it under a microscope. And investigate it, get curious about it, don't hate it. These scientists that were investigating bacteria and viruses, they had to spend so much time, they had to be open, they had to be willing to look at these bacteria, these viruses, these cancer cells in their natural environment and understand them first before they started trying to figure out ways to change them. So guys, this is the component that we're missing in the 21st century. Is that a scientist, a doctor can't do this for you any longer. They can't do the investigation for you any longer. They can't put your thoughts under a microscope. Only you can. And you can only do that if you have the tools necessary to do so. Just like these doctors had to learn how to use microscopes, how to use chemicals and things to pull bacteria, viruses out and take a look at them and investigate them. You have to learn the tools. And guys, that takes time. It takes patience. It takes love. It takes acceptance and non-judgment. That's what coaches are here for. Hire a coach. It's the last time. Not that, actually, no, it's not the last time I'm going to say it. But I'm going to say it again right now. Hire a coach. Whatever it is that you think you're struggling with, no matter how weird you think it might be, I promise you, you're not alone. And there's a coach out there for that. Just like there's an app for it on your iPhone, on your Android, there's a coach for that. So, hire a coach. Guys, we are at a time right now where we have so much personal responsibility for our own illness, mental, physical, all of it. And that's not to blame. That's to give you your power back. Responsibility means you have the ability to respond, which gives you your power back. So take it, use it. And if you want to know how, that's what I'm here for, and that's what every other coach is out there for. Let us show you the power that you have. That's all I have to share with you guys today. I hope this resonated with some of you. Ask me your questions, leave me your thoughts and comments below. Please share this video and get it out there. Get the message out there, guys. And if overeating, if not being able to develop healthy lifestyle habits is something that you're struggling with and you're wondering why, no matter how much you want to do it, you can't make any movement, please contact me. I have a 3-month program specifically designed to get you clarity on why this is happening in your life over and over again and why you can't seem to make a shift. And we're going to do it from a space of complete non-judgment. We're going to do it from a space of love and compassion. And I can show you how. If you don't think you can do it, I promise you, you have everything necessary to do it. So reach out, contact me. Yeah, that's all I have to share with you guys today. You all have a wonderful day. I love you all, and I will talk to you again soon. Ciao.